All right, so to the newspapers here. A lot is captured on our local dailies. Let me start with the Star newspaper. On the front page, Musalia to Uhuru, don't force me to hate Ruto. Okay, there you have it. Musalia to Uhuru, don't force me to hate Ruto. ANC chief says that Kenyatta has disappointed Kenyans, should not lecture him on that. ANC chief says that Kenyatta has disappointed Kenyans, should not lecture him. That's what's there. And DP hints at either MPs Gachagua or Alice Wahome as potential deputy. Details shortly. They held their first rally yesterday in Nakuru County in Ndamara Vein, as well as Nakuru City. We have a Nakuru City right now, not Nakuru County. Okay. Over 12,000 cops suffer mental health challenges. Triggers include tough work, financial issues, and marriage woes. There are 110,000 police officers in the country. NPSC Chief Executive Joseph Onyango said that the figures are a reflection of the global trend. Onyango spoke at a training for 60 senior administration police service officers at the Chiromo Hospital Group in Nairobi, and said that at least 12,000 police officers are facing mental health challenges out of work-related issues, as well as community and environmental aspects as well. And he said that officers showed between 12 and 13% of officers who have mental issues. That is something to be worried about. Joey shot himself inside Maribe's bedroom, investigator told court. This happens after Chief Inspector Eswari Njoki told court during her testimony that she was the investigating officer, and Maribe's neighbors told police that Joey had shot himself in Maribe's house using a gun he borrowed. Njoki told Justice Grace Nzioka that Joey, Maribe, and their neighbor Brian Kasaine had initially told in her statements that 3 armed men had attacked Joey as he came from picking Maribe from work. So the testimony still continues there. Very quick to the next page here, and that story, Musalia to Uhuru, don't force me to hate Ruto. The political temperature are quickly rising, and it's quite interesting to see how Musalia has now turned the heat on the president. But to say that in a no-holds-barred assault, Musalia trashed ODM chief Raila Odinga's political machine as a stalled state project. He claimed Uhuru is a failure and said Kenyans are disappointed in him. Now, Musalia spoke hours after Uhuru on Tuesday told a group of Western leaders at State House in Nairobi that the ANC leader disappointed him by joining Ruto. All right. DP hints at Gachagua or Wahome as running mate. Now, this is what happened. This is what happened yesterday. They spoke during the launch of Ruto's Kenya Kwanza coalition in Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. The event was attended by his new partners, Musalia Mudavadi of ANC and Moses Wetangula of Ford Kenya. So this was the protocol. The DP breached protocol to invite Wahome, Kandara, and Gachagua Mathira to speak after his address, signaling their rising influence in his camp. The last speakers traditionally carry considerable weight. So Wahome was the first one to be invited by Ruto to the podium after his speech, followed by Wetangula, then Gachagua. Musalia spoke last. And some say that the rejigged protocol was meant to trigger intense speculation that the DP could be considering the two for his second in command as the battle for running mate in his camp intensifies. Interesting times, interesting times. As that was happening, now Oka bosses line up rallies in new game plan to succeed Kenyatta. It said that the team will storm Kalonzo Musyoka's Ukambani backyard before camping in President Kenyatta's Mount Kenya turf. The team is scheduled to rallies in Kitui on Thursday, that is today, and Machakos on Saturday in whirlwind tours after the setback caused by Mudavadi's departure. On Saturday, they will be in Kirinyaga County. Next week, they will shift focus to Mudavadi's western base in a series of rallies that will see them visit all the 4 counties in the former Western Province. The team was expected to tour Bomet, but the same has been shelved because of quote-unquote political tensions there. And finally, Raila Ruto allies face off in COG elections, which actually is going to take place today. The polls will be held at Tamarin Hotel. All the 47 governors are expected to attend the annual event. Unlike the previous elections, where the county bosses were united and elected their leadership by consensus, this election has divided them down the middle. The governors are split along Raila and Ruto. So the main antagonists in the race for State House. So this is how it happens. According to the sources, Raila's Azimio La Umoja camp is fronting the current chairman, that is Embu Governor Martin Wambora, to retain the seat, and their UDA counterparts was in Gishu Governor Jackson Manago. It's quite interesting to see that all the two governors are second-term governors, and in the next 6 months, they'll be exiting the office. So how that is going to pan out, later on in the evening, we'll have those results for you. And to that story where the families of the Yala victims now will have to wait for 2 more weeks before they collect the bodies of their loved ones. According to the police here, they say that autopsy and collection of DNA samples finally started yesterday at that particular facility. And according to Haki Africa, the DCI, who are conducting the investigations, confirmed that the bodies will be collected in 2 weeks. So we still pray for the grace to the affected families. Steph.
All right, so the Daily Nation, the front page looks quite similar to the Star, with the main read saying, reading, inside Uhuru Mudavadi fallout. The Star read, don't force me to hate Ruto. So here on page 4, they give details why Mudavadi fell out with Uhuru, and allies say that he had been made to believe he was the president's heir, and political observers say Musali's decision to join Ruto was made out of anger to spite the president. Still on politics, on the campaign, the first campaign of the new alliance, that is Kenya Kwanza, they netted big fish. Well, one of the big fish was the Keroche Brewery's boss, Tabitha Karanja, who joins UDA as she eyes the Nakuru Senate seat. Away from politics, we move to matters education. The TSC goes online to bridge shortage of teachers in school, and we get details on this on page 7. This is thanks to the TSC new program that they launched yesterday. So schools with more than one stream and those with inadequate tutors in a particular subject will have a teacher from a national school coach students in more than 5 schools through online live stream, and then teachers in all schools will participate in guiding learners and marking their assignments. This is what the commission says. The TSC chief executive Nancy Macharia said the program is not meant to replace teachers in schools but assist in addressing the acute shortage. Some matters in court. We have the matter of Joey, which Victor has already mentioned. Another one is a twist in whereby two who claim to be students who received the 100 million from the Belgian tycoon. We had this story which broke out on social media a while ago last year. And questions rose, where did the Belgian get that kind of money? So the DCI has been investigating recently. At the hearing actually yesterday, two lawyers, Walter Owaga and Thomas Maosa, appeared to represent 2 different people, both claiming to be Miss Felista Njoroge. This was the lady who was sent the money, the girlfriend to the Belgium. Mr. Owanga said the woman he was representing has been out of the country for 6 months and is pregnant. On the other hand, the other lawyer, who is Mr. Maosa's client, Mr. Mouse's client has never been out of the country and had actually been presented to the DCI when the case started. So there's a bit of confusion, and the judge was forced to suspend the hearing pending identity verification by the DCI. Some other matters, this has also been covered in the Star newspaper, that is on page 10, saying that 1 in 10 police officers suffers from mental health, and Dr. Frank Njaga says we keep forgetting officers are ordinary people. Being on the front line responding to terrorist threats and collecting bodies from rivers is not what human beings were wired to do. And the task force recommended decriminalizing suicide in order to help reduce stigma. Lastly, civil servants read mischief in rent shocker. Civil servants living in government houses are set for tough times following a rare increase in their rent by 10% from April. And this is the first time since 2001 that the government has reviewed the rents, which are automatically deducted from their salaries. The civil servants, however, they want the rates reduced instead, say their houses are in deplorable conditions. So those are some of the stories making news in the Daily Nation. Doreen?
Let's start with that story concerning police officers. Look like that particular story is actually making its way on all the dailies that we have. And this is just as a result of that recent report. And the figures are already out there, just as my colleagues have mentioned. All this is being allied to cases of mental health, being blamed on issues of depression, given the fact that they are just saying that the police force, with the kind of work that they do, they need to ensure that their psychological or mental health is well taken care of. With just some of those figures showing that about 60% officers commit suicide every year. And aside from what I've just mentioned, also what is coming out is that this is also due to social, financial, and workplace pressure. So when we get to those details, I'll be telling you about these 12,000 officers who are battling mental illness and how this report is well carved out, and also how the police force is really trying and the different ways and methods they have come up with to ensure that they will take care of the mental health of our police officers. Away from that, counties are now facing crisis as senior officials quit to join politics. Remember, on Tuesday, that is High Court Judge Anthony Mirima dismissed that particular application to declare unconstitutional a section of Election Act requiring them to leave office 6 months to the day of election. So that simply means that they need to do that if at all one needs to vie for a political position. And so this is why most counties in the country are facing a crisis, as a good number of these senior officials are planning to vie for political seats, and hence they have to quit their jobs just for the purpose of that. To some bit of politics, Ruto Mudavadi Union spells out their new agenda, and this came out yesterday during that rally that they had in Nakuru, and they say that henceforth this union, or better still the alliances, will be known as Kenya Kwanza Coalition. Even as they were there in Nakuru, they brought out the agenda and what it is they plan to do for Kenyans if at all they get elected. This is August 9th. And also, just as Victor has mentioned, they are coming out on the Star. Musalia Mudavadi was also very keen to tell the president, who on Tuesday, while holding that meeting with Western Kenyan leaders, said that he was actually disappointed with the ANC's boss. And what Musalia Mudavadi said is that his disagreements with the deputy, that is the president's disagreements with the deputy president, should not force us or anyone else to be enemies just because of the disagreements that they have. Of course, also a lot came out in that particular rally, also again in respect to what they plan or what their agenda or the kind of agenda that they set forward for Kenyans. So even as that is happening, remember that also they still plan to go to various counties, and Bungoma has also been set aside as one of those key counties where they're planning to get to, even as they continue to popularize their agendas and even as they continue to rally towards the elections. So even as that is ongoing and continuing, so more defections are still rocking Mudavadi's ANC party, and this is after members of that particular party are defecting to different parties, key among them also being Azimio la Umoja. Just to mention a few, there's Lurambi MP Titus Hamala, who is actually the latest in Mudavadi Party ANC, who is said to be on his way to Azimio la Umoja, leaving ANC. And also a good number of these persons that are leaving this party are saying that they are uncertain of their leader with their plan, and this is part of the major reason as to why they're defecting to other parties. And away from some political matters to, again, a recent report this is in respect to what is just happening to journalists, or if you may, scribes. And this report shows that 65% of Kenyan female scribes face sexual harassment at work. This is just a recent report which was released. And out of this 65%, only 25% of this are men. So clearly, when it comes to this harassment, it happens to both women and men. Only that women get form a biggest chunk of the ones who are facing this kind of harassment. And also, this particular report shows that only 22% of this entire 65 cases get reported, and the article highlights the various reasons as to why most of these cases go unreported, and also part of the reasons and solutions they've come up with, at least to try and ensure that this does not become an issue anymore, whereby there's a lot of sexual harassment, especially in the workplaces, most of them being tied down or allied to women, or if you may, the females there. Still, the electoral body is decrying of low voter turnout. As of yesterday, it was established that around only 230,000 had registered in this second phase. That is still the same situation even today, with only 11 days remaining for the second phase to be closed, where they're targeting about 4.5 million Kenyans. And also part of what is coming out in this particular article is that in Kisii County, to be specific, the trend, especially in that particular county, is very worrying. And one of the major reasons as to why there's also low voter turnout, as described here, is that most of these IDs still lie unpicked, and so applicants cannot get to register as voters. And in that particular county alone, that is in Kisii County, they're targeting a total of about 11,000 voters in this second phase of voter registration. And lastly, we can also look at that particular story by the Teacher Service Commission, whereby that online curriculum is set to begin. Again, they haven't quite put a specific time when it comes to its implementation. They're just trying to see how best it can work. And why also we will be perhaps looking at this particular story, much as it also was there in the dailies yesterday, is because Nancy Macharia, the Teacher Service Commission Secretary, said that, and this again just to dispel fears amongst the teachers, whereby a good number of them felt like perhaps this online or virtual learning would replace their work or activities as teachers. But what Nancy Macharia said yesterday is that this is just in a way to bridge the gap, but not to serve as an alternative to either recruiting or having teachers in school. So that is what is happening in the PD, and that's how the front page of this particular daily looks like. Ray.
Quick sneak peek of what we have on the Standard this morning, talking about the political parties bill that is awaiting presidential assent. Then the campaign trail there, ANC taking a swipe, ANC Musalia Mudavadi supposedly taking a swipe at Uhuru, saying you shouldn't make me hate, Deputy President William Ruto. Well, quite a statement there. We do not have permanent friends or enemies as far as matters politics are concerned. Also, the curious case of what is happening, and it begins today. How should couples share matrimonial property? Let me take that again. How should couples share matrimonial property? So if the man bought it while in this union, when they part ways, does the property revert to him alone? Or because he was in a matrimonial setup, do they share the property? Those are some of the issues that, the Supreme Court is going to be ironing out today. These particular court sittings begin today. So many questions have been posed, both by men and by women. The Supreme Court judges are expected to hear two cases. In the first case, a wife has appealed the ruling to share wealth equally. So, according the question of property acquired during cohabitation or in a marriage which is unrecognized by law is an important one for the general public, and the court cannot shut its eyes to the need to settle the law in that regard. This, you and I should agree that this is definitely going to change how we operate. I will be keenly focusing on this myself. So I can also just quote what Chief Justice Martha Koome has said before. A man who cohabits with a woman in a property held in the woman's name also needs to prove contribution that he made, because merely lounging in a woman's house while dominating the remote control for the television channels cannot entitle a man to a share of the woman's property. Can I hear an amen from the ladies? Now let's hear what Justice Patrick Kiage had to say in this regard. So he's quoted in this particular daily saying, "Our new constitutional dispensation is not safe haven for spouses who will not pull their weight." Hallelujah.
Amen.
It
Hallelujah.
cannot be an avenue to early riches by men who would rather reap from rich women or from women who see moneyed men as an adieu to poverty.
Oh, yes.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
On the other hand, Justice George Odunga says, while the Act does not expressly recognize postnuptial agreements, it is my view that it does not mean that such agreements are not enforceable. Being contractual in nature, the general law of contract applies, and they are enforceable just like any other contract. Therefore, they are subject to the court's scrutiny if allegations of fraud, coercion, or is manifestly unjust are pleaded by a party to the agreement. Now, according to Justices Sankale Olekantai, Hannah Okwengu, and Mohamed Warsame, marriage per se is not a ground for sharing properties acquired during a marriage in an equal basis. Indeed, this particular ruling is going to set the way forward. People have taken each other for granted for far too long, and I think this was a long time coming. That just concludes what has been captured in the various dailies from me, Regina Manyara. I wish you a great viewing ahead, but we're not done yet. There's also entertainment. Yes,
Regina,
Victor.
before you go.
Yes.
You remember we had this discussion sometimes last year.
Yes.
Where the late marathoner, Tirop, the husband who actually transferred her property in his name and now all that, you know, it's basically the issue of property and how to share is always a big issue in marriages. I mean,
always been a problem.
it's always been a problem.
You're actually preaching to the choir. I have lived that journey.
It's a problem that I think began years and years and years ago.
You see,
some men feel like they're entitled to a property that
accountability,
women hold.
lack of accountability.
Exactly.
Victor.
We had this discussion sometimes last year.
Lack of accountability, and I think this is something that we can pick up even when we bring in, you know, even lawyers who are dealing with marital issues to just tell us what is happening within the courtrooms when it comes to divorce law and such.
Yeah.
And now this particular ruling, how is it going to change our thinking and even the law going forward? But
thinking of it in simple terms, if you've bought a house right now, Regina, or you bought a car, or you bought some piece of land somewhere through your hard-earned money. You get married 10, 15, 20 years later, then someone in your life says that, you know, this property belongs to us, and all the title deeds read in your name. You go to the land registry, Regina Manyara, Victor Olo, Stephen Ayeta. I mean, it's just common sense.
Actually, they believe that anything that is bought within that union, you are holding it in trust of your partner. That is the layman term of what I got. But this is something that is going to give us direction. For now, let's take that quick breather. We'll be right back.
And welcome back. Still on what's happening on our local dailies here. Let me ask you, how much would you pay to secure your freedom? Now, businesswoman Mary Wamboi will pay 15 million shillings for release of her passport. The Anti-Corruption Court has ordered businesswoman Mary Wamboi to pay 15 million shillings bond before her passport is released so that she can travel to Turkey next month for business. The DPPs had opposed the release of Wamboi's passport, saying that she was a flight risk. But Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Felix Kombo said that he was not convinced she intended to flee to Turkey, as her defense lawyer Nelson Harvey was able to demonstrate that she had ongoing grant project. Now, initially, the court was told that the businesswoman Mary Wamboi was to fly to Turkey to purchase furniture for her hotel, which is under construction here in Kenya. So she'll have to pay 15 million shillings for her to get her passport back. Uhuru and Raila allies in frantic bid to salvage house business. They burnt midnight oil to crack the riddle of the premature adjournment on Tuesday. Together with the clerk of the National Assembly, Michael Sialai, they burnt the midnight oil to crack the riddle of premature adjournment triggered by Tanga MPs on Tuesday. Now, the concerted effort saw the leaders resolve to have the sitting on Thursday, but the same was later changed to Tuesday, February 1st. That is according to Speaker Justin Muturi, who informed members that he received a notification from the leader of the majority, Amos Kimunya, requesting the date. So that is as far as that is concerned. The battle of the Titans now has shifted to the floor of the houses. That story there, which Doreen, I'm so sure you handled, as well as Stephanie, where online lessons won't affect teachers' jobs, according to the TSC boss. Program will see learners attend classes hosted by principal schools. The pilot program actually to this, so that, you know, some of the schools which are carrying out this particular project share, I'd say, the same teacher with other schools. What do you think about this one, Doreen? Because if you, for example, are in a school, for example, a school in Nyanza or western side of Kenya or even northern part of the country, and a teacher is here in Nairobi, how do you think that will change the student perception in terms of their student-student relations while they're taking their lessons?
Actually, and I'm just on that story, and what you're saying is basically also highlighted here.
Yeah.
And part of that pilot program will include lessons being delivered from 2 principal schools. And what the commission said, these schools will be Alliance Girls High School and Machakos Boys High School. So what they will do is that they will be transmitting this to different selected schools via the satellite, and some of those pilot schools have also been put in place in counties picked include Isiolo, Kilifi, Bomet, Taita, Makueni and Kisii. And just going by what you say, I mean, the teacher is here obviously in either Alliance or Machakos Boys, because these are the 2 schools that have been picked for this particular exercise. And here I am in somewhere in Ukondani, maybe Isiolo, Kilifi, or even Bomet, getting lessons from these teachers. Well, it's a good move, because I mean, then I get to pick from what this teacher in Nairobi or even in Alliance is teaching. But I don't know how it will be affecting my perhaps mental capacity, also in terms of feeling and thinking. What is so peculiar about these 2 schools that they just have to be the pilot schools to be picked to be transmitting these lessons? And again, the other factor which is also coming out is the issue of internet.
Yeah, the connectivity.
Exactly, the connectivity. Remember that during COVID, this was actually the biggest challenge. Why? Because learning was digitized. It was virtual. Most schools were learning via the online platform. But even as schools resumed, what was the issue still, what was the biggest issue is that good number of schools did not continue with the lessons much as it was on the digital platform, simply because internet was still lacking. So yes, as we're picking these 2 schools, Alliance and Machakos, and here we are in those sub-county schools in Bomet, Kilifi, or even Isiolo, the consistency of it, and perhaps this is why the commission has not really put a specific date or time for its implementation. They're just still doing pilots on the rollout to try and see its workability, is again because of the same issue, internet. Because yes, it can begin very well, but what about the consistency of this kind of program? The
consistency and the connectivity actually is the key issue here. But again, Steph, this actually brings almost all the students at par, because when you talk of Machakos High School, right, and Alliance Girls, and you connect all these other schools to these other, remote parts of the country, and they have that feel of, we are also being taught by the same teacher from Alliance Girls and Machakos.
That's the positive thing.
Exactly. It brings that sense of, we can also do it then.
Yeah. We are not different.
Yes.
Yeah, it gives them that sense of, that confidence that I'm being taught by a teacher from Alliance, so there's a higher probability that I'll also perform the same way. It boosts your confidence, because everyone wants to be in a national school, and it's a dream come true, even though it's on a digital platform. But the problem will come again when with the attention, with the virtual space and everything, it's hard for these students who are not used to the internet and matters, studying online studies.
But I believe some of these students, they're tech savvy. Yeah.
Okay, maybe for the ones that are tech savvy, but those that are in school in the, the deep parts of Bomet, they don't have access to the internet, they don't have phones, so maybe they'll access this in schools for the first times, especially those that didn't access them during, the COVID period when we were going digital. So they might have a challenge to, to retain the attention. Maybe the teachers will come up with some ways of, attention retention. Yeah, and that might help, but it could be a problem.
Yeah, but you see how it happens. A camera is fixed at a particular position, just the way we have this camera. So the teachers will not be free to move. You remember, we all know teachers are able sometimes to attract your attention. They move in between the alleys, in the classrooms, sometimes going back at the back seats, coming back in front, and just to attract the attention of the students, because we all know mathematics. And actually, they say that the courses under pilot program includes, mathematics, science, and English. All right? Mathematics, science, and English. And just to break it down, some of the schools, satellite schools for Alliance, are Kipukoro Mixed, Kiwandani School, Bishop Baldacchino, Kokungorik, and Suguta Girls Secondary School. Secondary schools, satellite schools for Machakos schools are Isiolo Girls Secondary School, Collins Davis Mixed, AIC Kavalula, I got it right, Njoro Secondary School, and Muthihini Girls. Now the pilot schools are in Isiolo, Kilifi, and as well as what Doreen stated there. So it's going to be interesting to see, once the pilot project is done, then now what, Doreen, you said, the sustainability in terms of connectivity in schools, how the teachers will be attending to all the students at one particular time. Remember, the satellite can drop. Network connectivity is also low. So who will be gaining? The mother school there.
Exactly.
The mother school where the teacher is based. So it's a pilot project. Perhaps the government has some wide project to handle it. That's something that will be good to take care of.
And even before you move further, Vic, I think just the way we're talking about here, it's a good move, because again, going by what TSC is also mentioning, is that this is they're trying to bridge that gap. And they're saying that, yes, they're not using this as an alternate or alternative to not be recruiting teachers, because then again, you cannot in any way not recruit teachers at all. But the way we're talking about, the consistency of it might be an issue. Again, the other factor is the teacher-student relations. Look at the subjects that have been picked for the pilot program: mathematics, science, English. I mean, the way you're saying, yes, it's a good move. It will be from the mother school, the satellite will be transmitted. But what if it drops? Who really stands to benefit a lot? And then what happens to the teacher-student relation or even interaction? And when you look at such key subjects as mathematics.
Personally, it will bring a challenge, because remember, in science, sometimes you'll have to go to the laboratory.
Oh, yes.
How will you go to the laboratory when you want to demonstrate the pipette, the burette, and you want to do this, the mixing of these reagents and what have you? But anyway.
I think they'll need to collaborate with the teachers in those schools, in the remote schools, so that when they teach the theory, the teachers in the schools actually help them with the practical, or maybe areas that they have not understood. So with the collaboration, it will work, probably.
With English, it can work. We just speak and you go.
You move,
Science and mathematics look like to be a challenge, but let's see how the pilot will look like. Then, of course, they'll just give us details of how it will be before they begin the implementation process.
Good move there. All right, Steph, what do you have?
Okay, so on page 17 here, we have journalists planning to vie in 2022 polls should resign by February the 9th. David Omoyo, who is the CEO of the Media Council of Kenya, says it is unethical and a breach of code of conduct to use media space to campaign unfairly, because being a journalist and you're going for a political seat, you'll definitely have bias and there'll be a conflict of interest. So when you're interviewing a person from a different political, what do you call it?
Political seat.
Political seat from yours, you'll definitely be biased and try to, push your agenda
Actually,
forward.
that is the law. That's why even the civil servants, they have got 2 weeks to resign, because you cannot campaign at the same time you see the same office. Conflict of interest, that's the law. So our fellow scribes, you have it out there.
February 9th is your day. Another one is a report on mental health. So mental health issues show we aren't talking. Speaking to a therapist about the issues you are dealing with doesn't make you a lesser person. This is by Sylvia Muchuli, one of the journalists who wrote this particular article, and says exercise is one thing that will help with overcoming mental issues. It doesn't have to be a complex activity. A simple walkabout in your estate or a hike at Karura Forest should do you something good. And advising us to organize such activities, to get someone to coordinate what your team will do during the hike. At the end of the exercise, you will have burned some calories and exhaled while at it. Well, this story is very interesting. Yesterday, I was reading an article from an international media house, and they were asking, do you think that ditching your smartphone for an analog phone could help save your mental health? Do you think this is a contributing factor in the first place? Social media and the smartphone in general. What do you think about this, Victor?
Mental health. Okay, we cannot narrow it down to a phone. People have mental health because of
different issues,
millions and millions of issues. As we speak, somebody is suffering from mental health because of lack of job, because of property row as we speak, because of family issues, technology, as well as so many things. Someone doesn't have a school fee to go to school to finish her degree, her master's. That's an issue altogether. So, well, technology is part of it, but people suffer different issues, man. Have you ever walked out here? There's that spot near the Bomb Blast Center or the Round Table in town opposite Hilton. It's called a Round Table. When you sit or you sit somewhere, you look at how people, somebody can sit there for an hour plus without any motion. At some point, he leaned back on that bench, take a nap. You find this guy taking some stride walks across the street to Tomboya, coming back. People have problems. You cannot tell that person has a problem because of a phone.
Yeah, but they say that it is a contributing factor, social media, how, there was a case on Facebook saying that Facebook and Instagram
I agree.
sort of
the competition Apple is on another level. Yeah,
they accelerate mental health issues because of how they, the strategies they use to get people to stay online throughout. So that's why probably they came up with this question. So, Doreen, what do you think about it? Do you think that ditching your smartphone could help save, your mental health?
I think when it comes to mental health, much as recent research or reports shows a lot of linkage or alignment to technology, mostly social media, but also going by what has been happening. Like, for instance, just last week, there's this particular DJ from a famous media station who ended up just committing suicide while he was in that particular workstation. Yani umekuja tu job, ushapiga shughuli yako na decide, by the way, after hii outro, even ndo tunataka kujimaliza. And there was, there's so many reasons that came as a result of him committing suicide. Some were saying it's family related, some were saying it's work related. And this just brought me to thinking that the way we are saying, yes, a lot of research is tying it to social media and technology, but also I tend to think that people are suffering a lot, which may not really be linked to tech per se, but the fear of talking about it, and most especially because of judging. I feel like you judge me, you think of me differently. So I'll just deal with my issue up until when I can deal with it. And when I look for an exit route, even if it's committing suicide, that's what I'll be doing. Because, I mean, how would you really explain someone just coming to work on a normal day, greeting you people, doing his work, and then after it's all done, deciding this is it for me? So there's a lot of things that people are battling, and even just Kenyans are battling a lot. And this is, again, why you'd see the police service saying they're really trying to look for ways they can at least treat mental cases in that particular force. And imagine that is just one entity. You've not gone to the different organizations and workspaces or even in family setups, and someone tells you, this is actually what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot. There's just a lot. So
it's very necessary to speak out when you're going through something. When you're too stressed, go to a counselor. If you can't afford a counselor, just look for a close friend that you trust. And
you're right. But then, just a simple question. How do you use your mobile phone? Right now, we are in a digital era. We can't run away from that.
Yeah.
How do you use your mobile phone? You know, you cannot blame a mobile phone because of, believe you me, there are some people who are addicted to these apps.
Exactly.
That if they don't have data bundle to access those apps, they get sick.
They can't survive.
They can't survive. They can't survive. How do you use your social media? You know, they have so many, apps out there. No names mentioned here, but some people are addicted to them, not because there's something. Let me tell you, there are people who are making money because of those apps.
Exactly.
You can use your social media to earn a living. Some people use their mobile phones as their office workstations.
Yeah.
People working from home, people who transact business. Us as journalists, we use our mobile phones actually even to do stories. You understand? We do Zoom meetings, Zoom calls. That's how we do it. But some people are addicted to their mobile phones, how you use your filters, how you pose for a photo, the kind of dress somebody bought, you also want to buy the same and post on social media. The number of likes you get, it gets into your mind. If today you got 520 likes, the following morning you got 20 likes. Do you know what effect? It has an effect in your head.
And this is why people buy them.
Exactly.
What happened? How did I post today? As a gentleman, what kind of a drink did I buy? Did I post it? People liked it. You know, I posted next to a certain big car. People did not like it. It has a mental effect on you. How you use the social media is all up to you. So don't say, a mobile phone, I will buy even the next one. But how I use it...
How you use it is important.
Exactly. It's all up to you.
Yeah.
It's all up to you.
Okay, so that's about it, Dori.
All right, let's look at this particular report, still on journalists, but this is just a report that was released on sexual harassment, and it shows that 65% of Kenyan female scribes face sexual harassment. Just as you were introducing what I was actually making the front page of the different dailies, I said that obviously this kind of harassments happen to both male and female. It's not just an inkling to females only that female form a bigger percentage of the kind of harassments that happen in this workstation, specifically the newsrooms. So this particular report also shows that Kenya is leading in sexual harassment in the media in Africa. So in the entire African continent, and all the media spaces you could think of, Kenya is the one leading when it comes to sexual harassment in media.
Sad.
At 56% and 65% forming. Even before I continue this particular report, by the way, what do you guys think? In the entire African continent,
we are leading in...
Kenya is leading in sexual harassment
of female
in the media space.
Wow.
And remember, this is not only females, It is both females and males, only that female take up a bigger chunk. Before you continue even with the report, what do you guys think?
I think that is very sad.
A continent with 54 countries. And all these countries have media spaces or media entities.
That is not a good title to take on. It is a sad state of affairs that we can hold such.
Victor, it was a shock.
It is shocking.
We're number one. So I'm in that category. Like, seriously, who put me in that data and research?
So this data, by the way, it was released by One IFRA, which is Women in News, in partnership with CT, University of London. The report surveyed more than 2,000 individuals in 20 countries in Africa, Southeast Asia, Eurasia, Central America, and Arab region. And it revealed that 40% of women media professionals have faced sexual harassment in their workplace, but only 20% reported it. So when it comes to the African continent only, this is what the report showed, that it's Kenya is leading in that particular report, and the report was done on about 2,000 individuals.
My question is why?
Why what? Why the sexual harassment?
Yeah, why the sexual? Why are we leading? Why are we thriving in that area?
Okay. All right. I personally think that we can pass this position to some country when the next survey is done. But it paints a grim picture on us as media, practitioners out there, and even people who are planning to venture into the same industry. It scares them a lot. So
oh yes, it does.
We can do it better. There's something they can do to change that position. It doesn't paint a good picture us in the industry already. No.
We can do better than that.
We can do better than that.
Sure.
But remember, again, this has been just some conversation, even just out there, people saying that I face this, I face that, I face this, I face that. It's difficult here, it's difficult there. But just the way you're saying, we need to change the outlook and change the perception.
Yeah.
I mean, media is a source of information. You can't just be in a space where you don't have media, because then how then are you getting your information? It could be social media or even the mainstream media. It is still media. This is still journalists. All right. So this is where you bring in the headlines to a close?
Yes, I believe so.
But obviously we still have plenty more on the other side. Good Morning Kenya continues after this short break.